If you're serious about shooting video on the iPhone, then you seriously need to check out the Filmic Pro app. We've used most, if not all, of the third-party iPhone video camera apps, and hands down our favorite to date is Filmic Pro.
That review clip was from 2012, and that was Courtney Ware, who used to work on the YouTube channel with me. And back then, Filmic Pro was a big part of what we did. Not so much anymore, but it wasn't always that way. There was a moment when my iPhone stopped feeling just like a phone and started feeling like a camera. And that moment had a name. Yep, Filmic Pro. It gave us manual control when the native camera wouldn't.
You can choose to individually control focus, exposure, and white balance.
24 frames per second. Remember, you couldn't do that in the native camera app, which for me was huge.
The app gives you the ability to shoot in different frame rates, including the film-friendly 24p.
Bitrate control, and eventually even log profiles. It didn't just make the phone better, it made us take the phone more seriously. Indie films were shot on it. YouTube channels were built around it, mine included. And for years, if you cared about mobile filmmaking, it was the app. But then, almost overnight, something happened. Ownership changed. Pricing changed. And the app that once defined the mobile filmmaking space started losing its place in it. So what really happened to Filmic Pro? Filmic Pro was founded in 2011 by Neil Barham. At the time, it was a very small app development company, but with big ideas.
The mission was to democratize filmmaking and empower filmmakers.
I first met the CEO, Neil, in a coffee shop, and he breathlessly regaled me about his idea, his crazy scheme to democratize filmmaking.
Yes, it sounds like a cliche, but this informed how we built the app, how we supported customers, and the wider filmmaking community.
It occurred to me that, yeah, we could do that. Make what was essentially a kind of Super 8 camera for the current generation.
This and the other features made the app feel revolutionary.
There was a lot of latent capabilities in the iPhone at the time, even all the way back then.
It was the early days of mobile filmmaking, but it was already showing its future potential.
I discovered Filmic Pro in film school. Instead of waiting 3 months to book the one red cinema camera shared between all students for maybe an afternoon, I could go out and make films every day with a device I already owned, and that changed everything for me. It removed the gatekeepers. The only barrier left was my own creativity, not money, not access to gear, and I think that's exactly why it mattered to so many other filmmakers too.
And one of those filmmakers was Sean Baker. He's now, of course, a famous Academy Award-winning director, but in 2015, he shot and directed Tangerine on an iPhone, using Filmic Pro.
Hey, Alexandra, come here. Listen, have you seen
Cinderella. Looks like someone has a crush.
And that really helped change the game. And I was actually inspired by Baker too. And in 2017, I made my first iPhone shot short film.
Hey, we're back on the zoo. Here's a request from earlier today from Casey.
It was called Casey's Favorite Song, and I shot it on an iPhone 6S using the very first version of Filmic Pro Log. And by the way, this was the short film that became my feature film, Casey Makes a Mixtape, that you can watch right now on streaming or Blu-ray. But in 2017, shooting Log on an iPhone was a big deal.
Log was one of the big selling points to Filmic, that's for sure.
So my phone rang a couple weeks ago. Hello? Oh, hey, what's up, Filmic Pro guys? You need beta testers for the new Log version 2? Yeah, man, sure, I'm in. So there was Log V1, Log V2, then Log V3 as the phones got newer, and later Log V3 Plus for ProRes.
What I would love to see and have advocated for a handful of years is a slightly thicker iPhone with a larger sensor and 10-bit ProRes.
Keep in mind, this was way before Apple Log that we have today.
We got a lot of criticism for it. People made the assumption that we were faking it.
And that was a common argument I saw in YouTube comments. People didn't believe it was true Log, but it was.
Some people said that we were just reducing the contrast and that wasn't actually true. We actually had an entire pipeline dedicated to our log curve.
Now, it wasn't the same as shooting log with a cinema camera. You had hardware limitations, of course, and they were using an early form of computational imaging to create the logarithmic gamma curve. But it was, in fact, log video on an iPhone, and it was a big early step in moving the iPhone towards being a professional quality video tool. And Filmic Pro was the undisputed industry leader.
We had a very loyal customer base that saw that. And of course, Apple saw that too. And that's why they used Filmic Pro for much of their principal photography for shot on iPhone projects.
This is a behind the scenes video that Apple released. And in his hand right here, let's zoom in, that is an iPhone. It's a little bit blurry. You got some motion blur going there. But that is Filmic Pro. But then, it all changed. I'm wearing shades today, not because it's overly sunny. I'm actually trying to hide my tears. If you hadn't heard, Filmic Pro is going to a subscription-based model. So a couple of days ago, I started seeing comments on YouTube and on Twitter asking me if Filmic Pro had switched to a subscription app. And I said, of course, no. I've had it since 2012, and it's always been a one-time purchase app. But of course, I was wrong. And shortly, Filmic released this statement. The past couple of years, Filmic Pro have been in a period of innovation and growth. This month, Filmic Pro joined forces with Bending Spoons. The support of Bending Spoons will help fuel our plans for growth, accelerate our development cycles, and ultimately build an even stronger, more valuable filmic experience for our customers in the ever-expanding creator community.
Filmic Pro was coming out of a very unique period of history, the pandemic, and our sales were highly erratic at that time. I would say that we weren't under immediate threat of insolvency. We probably could have gone another 3 years without having to make very difficult choices. But we needed some help.
The company was sustainable, but we had ambitions that outpaced our resources. We wanted to expand the team, build a broader ecosystem of filmmaking apps, and had even begun exploring hardware. And these ambitions required capital.
The help that we really needed was we needed some capital to actually move forward with a transition from a single purchase model to a subscription model.
Software development is expensive. If you want to expand a team and ship ambitious features consistently, recurring revenue matters. At the time, we felt Bending Spoons would provide the resources and operational expertise to help us realize those ambitions at scale. What I didn't know was how the transition would be handled.
At the time of this video, they are testing different pricing models around the world. So depending on where you are, you might see a different price.
And as we all know, that's where things went very wrong and the rollout was botched.
I'm not interested in doing a weekly subscription. That's really what they're offering now, which is weird to me. Yearly or monthly, maybe, but not weekly. And also right now, the pricing is way too high. If you do the weekly right now, it looks to be over $100 a year or more, and that ain't gonna work.
What they didn't tell us was the high cost of that subscription model. We had some very different ideas of what that should be, and there was a firm disagreement with Bending Spoons, and they decided to take a very different direction than what we recommended.
The justified anger from users overshadowed something important. The development velocity post V7 was extraordinary while it lasted. We were shipping major updates almost monthly.
I subscribed to their new V7 app and was impressed by what they were offering. Now I know a lot of you aren't real happy with Filmic Pro, but don't shoot the messenger, okay? This was a big redesign from version 6, and they were doing it right.
I feel genuinely terrible about how the subscription transition was handled. It was done the wrong way, but the ambition and speed of feature development under the subscription was remarkable and delivered real value.
And the subscription price did finally settle on a better rate. Still expensive to some, but it was better. However, the damage was really already done.
Ultimately, I believe that hurt Filmic Pro quite a bit. And the consequences of that pricing model are now well known. Filmic Pro's user base began to decline pretty dramatically, and it didn't make sense for Filmic to exist as an independent entity after a while under the Bending Spoons umbrella.
I was never given a clear explanation about why we were let go. Looking back, it now appears to be part of a broader acquisition strategy employed by Bending Spoons, but at the time, it was a genuine shock. I think most of us were blindsided.
In November 2023, Bending Spoons laid off the entire 22-person staff of Filmic Pro. So just over a year after the acquisition, the entire original team was now gone. This move followed a trend of major layoffs by Bending Spoons at other acquired companies, including Evernote.
I can't comment on Bending Spoons' motivation to let go Filmic when they did. Obviously, it appeared to coincide pretty directly with the release of the Blackmagic Camera app.
We were notified of the layoffs less than 48 hours after Blackmagic Camera was announced.
And it's true that competing with a free app is challenging, but Filmic had been doing that for years.
My personal guess is it accelerated a plan that was already in motion, but I suspect the outcome would have been the same eventually with or without Blackmagic.
There probably was some path to competing with Blackmagic Design. It would have required more investment, more time, and for us to be even more nimble than we were in the past. And Bending Spoons, no doubt, looked at the resources and time that would have been needed to do that, and they made the decision, a business decision, to more or less withdraw from that market completely.
Since then, Bending Spoons has gotten a reputation for buying companies and laying off the staff. That includes recently Vimeo.
In hindsight, there's an obvious pattern, but at the time, that pattern wasn't so obvious. They were assembling what looked like the Adobe Creative Cloud of mobile apps. They had Splice, the editing app. They'd just acquired Alight Motion for motion graphics. It genuinely felt like we were joining a creator-focused ecosystem. It felt like the right home.
And as we all unfortunately know now, it didn't turn out that way. Filmic Pro is still available in the App Store today, but the updates mainly seem to be for maintenance only.
It hasn't been meaningfully updated in a very long time. So at the moment, Bending Spoons is just extracting value from a sunk cost. Looking back, did I accomplish the thing that I wanted to do with Filmic? That is to say, democratize filmmaking for a new generation? Yes.
I do think Filmic fulfilled its mission, from first-time student films to award-winning docos and theatrical releases from major filmmakers. I have no doubt that Filmic Pro brought stories to the screen that otherwise would never have existed.
We didn't have another Filmic Pro to look to and say, oh, well, they're doing it this way, maybe we can do it better, or we like this feature, we can copy it. Filmic started with none of that. There was no other Filmic Pro to emulate.
Filmic Pro is one of the giants whose shoulders mobile filmmaking stands on today, including Blackmagic Camera.
Now, since then, thousands of other apps have come out, copying Filmic Pro's kind of design ethos, in some cases pretty directly, in some cases not. But you can definitely see that there's a genetic relationship between the new generation of video camera apps that we have today and what Filmic Pro was doing.
Technically, we pioneered log filters, deep gimbal hardware integrations, fully customizable camera experiences, and were the first to implement groundbreaking technologies like ProRes encoding and multicam recording.
Filmic Pro may not be actively updated today, but every time you use an application that associates bit rate with codec or allows you to change the playback and the capture frame rate independently, or any of these other advanced features, that started with Filmic.
Chris Cohen's design philosophy made the app intuitive in a way others weren't. If a film got attention for being shot on iPhone 9 times out of 10, it was shot with Filmic. And behind the scenes, we lobbied to Apple to fix issues like dynamic tone mapping and variable frame rates that were ruining shoots for years. We can't claim credit for Apple log or constant frame rate, but I know we helped push those discussions forward.
So Filmic Filmic lives on, not just in Filmic, but in 1,000 other apps today that people are using. So did we do what we wanted to do? Yes, directly and indirectly. And in that way, I think Filmic Pro's legacy continues on.
Many of the former Filmic Pro staff now work at Blackmagic and have made that app a lot better. Chris now works at Apple, and Elliot has a really cool mobile filmmaking channel you've probably watched before, and he lives in Australia and is a freelance filmmaker today. Some things burn bright and fade, and some things make room for what comes next, and ultimately, I think that's what Filmic Pro did. I know they had more they wanted to do, but in a way I do think they completed their job, and I'm grateful to them for that. Thanks for watching.